right, we are in the middle of continuing to go over the practice test, and here we are at number 38 through 49. A whole bunch of naming and formula writing ones here. Distant learners, or we have a late incoming question. I think that says number 33. I'm going to back one page up right here. Number 33 was a question. This one said, how many oxygen atoms are represented by Al2, and then there's SO3 with a 3 right here. It says how many oxygen atoms are in there. Well, you can see that there's a 3 below the oxygen, so there's definitely at least 3 oxygen atoms. But since there's parentheses around here, this 3 distributes into each one of these elements. So 3 times 3, or 9 oxygen atoms, would be inside of that formula. Hopefully that helped answer number 33. Was that good? In face-to-face learners, was that okay? All right, now we'll go on to the next page where we were, 38 through 49. Which one?
39.
39er is the first one that's asked by a face-to-face person here. Copper 2 hypobromite. Copper 2, and then it's hypo, and then it's bromite. All right, so first, copper. Copper is Cu, and we know it's going to be plus 2 because there's a Roman numeral 2, so put a little 2 up here. And that'll help us remember we've got to balance that positive 2 up. Then we've got to find hypobromite on the back, because that's not one that you have to have memorized. And you probably won't find it in this list. Remember, this list is alphabetical by name. This list is alphabetical by formula. So you probably got to go over here to find some weird ones. And if you look in the -1 area, you can find all the bromates. Perbromate, bromate, bromite, and here's hypobromite. Hypobromite is BRO-1. Okay? BRO, and it's a -1 charge. So the plus 2 and the -1 don't add up to equal 0, so we have to do something to make them add up to 0. We're going to have more than one of something. I got to have 2 of this guy, right? And so then it ends up being Cu, and then BRO, and then I'm going to have 2 of them, so I put a little 2 down below this. So this is CuBRO2, Kubro 2. I guess that's how you pronounce it. Copper 2 hypobromites. Any other questions on that? Yes?
Can you do 41?
Oh, a different problem. Number 41 we're going to go to now. All right, not a problem at all. 41. Asks for hexanitrogen pentoxide. Hexanitrogen and then pentoxide. So as soon as I see these prefixes like this, a big bell goes off in my head and I go, oh, what things use prefixes like that to name them? It must be some of these kind right here, covalent or molecular ones. And so I look here to try to figure out how many there are. I see an "ide" ending on the second one, so I know it must be a binary molecular or a binary covalent substance, because they're both nonmetals and they use these prefixes. Okay, what's the prefix hex mean? Well, hex means 6, so that means there must be 6 nitrogens. And then oxide, oxide means oxygen, and it says pentoxide, so that must mean there's 5 of them, so it's N6O5. Is that good at deciphering that one? Is that okay? All right, distant learner asked about number 47. This one had a V3 and then PO4 and then a 4 down here. I believe that's a 4. Yep. Okay, so we want to name this one from the formula. So first, notice right away that V is a metal. There's one over here. Right here is V. It's in the metals area. And as soon as you see it's a metal, know that it's going to be ionic. And when it's ionic, I know that I'm going to have to name it with a Roman numeral, more than likely. And the second element's going to end in IDE. If it's a second element, it might just be a polyatomic ion here. Okay? So first name this element. So this is vanadium. Okay? And then name this second element. Well, it's not an element, it's a polyatomic ion. It's one I took a quiz on, but I can look it up back here. Remember, these are alphabetical by formula. And so PO4 is phosphate. And then I need to figure out what the Roman numeral is that goes in here. So vanadium has to be some charge. I don't know what it is. I know there's 3 of them, though, in the formula because there's a 3 down here. This needs to add together with phosphate's charge. And I forgot phosphate's charge, so I look on here again. I find phosphate. I find phosphate's minus 3. Okay, where did I find phosphate's minus 3? On this chart. And then there's 4 of them, so this has got to be a 4. And it's got to add up to equal 0. So now you wrote yourself a little math problem, and you're going to have to guess and check and figure out what the number should be. Can you tell? 4, right? 4. So you have to put a Roman numeral 4 in here to indicate that it is vanadium 4 phosphate. And it probably never said this on the videos, but you do have to have your Roman numerals memorized. Like, you have to know them through 7. You have to know Roman numeral 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. You got to know those. That's not something that is given to you on the test. Distant learner, any other questions on that? In-class learners, any other questions? No more on this page? We're good on this page? We're good at naming and formula writing? That's what a lot of the test is. All right, last page. Is this our last page? I think pretty much. Yep, pretty much last page right here. 50 through 59. Questions on any of these in-person learners or distant learners? 5-1er is the question here from a face-to-face person. 51. It has the formula GA, and then it has C2, H3, O2, and that's a 3. So GA, find that on the periodic table, and you notice, oh, that's in the metals, right? In the metals, it's on this side of the staircase. So that's going to be a ionic compound, and so I'm going to probably need a Roman numeral for this one. Well, everything needs a Roman numeral except for the few exceptions in group 1 and group 2, and then these guys. Remember, you should remember aluminum's plus 3, zinc's plus 2, cadmium's plus 2, and silver's plus 1. Those you need to know. Those are the sneaky S ones. Gallium, you don't know what it is, so write down gallium. And then C2H3O2, if you don't have it memorized yet, it's right up here, or it's right up here. Alphabetically, C2H3O2 would be over here. So it's called acetate. Leave some space in there so you can put the Roman numeral in there. We know acetate's charge, because you memorized it or you looked it up here on the periodic table, is -1, and there are 3 of them. So something plus -3 has to equal 0. You can guess and check and see if you can figure out what it is. 3, yeah. So you need a Roman numeral 3 in the middle right here, so gallium 3 acetate. Is that good? Distant learners, any other ones on this page, 50 through 59? Which one?
54.
Face-to-face person wants to know about 54. So 54 says SO3. Immediately I look on my periodic table and I realize sulfur and oxygen are both in the non-metals area. Ooh, non-metals. It's not ionic then, right? Non-metals are always molecular or covalent. So I open it up right here and I look at the molecular covalent prefixes right here and I name it that way. So for those of you that are following along at home or those of you that are here, what's the first thing that I do when I come across a formula? I always look to see if it's got a metal or non-metals in it, right? Always do that first because then you can never be mixed up. So anyway, I noticed it's all non-metals, so I name it with these. Remember, the first element never used mono, so just call it sulfur. And then there's oxygen there, so I call it trioxide. Don't forget to end it with an IDE ending. Sulfur trioxide. Questions on that? Is that tough? Difficult? Challenging? Yeah? The test is tough, difficult, and challenging. Any other questions on 50 to 59? And then the last one right here, it had just some ones without multiple choice right here, and I know there's a few of them on there. Some alkanes like these, and some acids like these. Any of those that you want to go over? Distant learners or people in class? Okay, haven't heard any other questions from people in face-to-face or people on WebEx. So just to go over the test for a second, we'll wrap up. The test is composed of 50 multiple choice questions. You get 55 minutes to do the test. It'll be face-to-face, and then distant learners will join me on Thursday via WebEx. You get a periodic table, not your periodic table. So it won't have these little charges listed on there. It won't have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It'll be a laminated periodic table just like yours. So it'll look like this, but it won't have any writing on it. It'll have the inside right here with the covalent and organic prefixes, but it won't be your periodic table. It's all Scantron sheet. Even for the distant learners, you're supposed to pick up a Scantron sheet and fill that out as you take the test. And then the timing is really strict. You'll have a little bit of time before you take it for in-class people because your class is like an hour long. But then it'll be 55 minutes to do 50 multiple choice questions. I would say it is very similar to the practice test in that a lot of them are naming and formula writing. If you look on here, there's just a lot of naming and formula writing, a lot of naming and formula writing, and there's even more on the actual test. So make sure that you're good at your acids and identifying them. Make sure you're good at your alkanes and know what those are, because there's going to be 2 or 3 on there. And everybody wants to get them all. Make sure you're good at your ionic ones. There's going to be several that go from name to formula and several from formula to name. And then there'll be plenty of questions like the front here as well, where there's different questions about places and pieces on the periodic table and particles that make things up. Let's see. There's a couple of posts here from distance learners. One wanted to know about alkanes. So the alkanes right here are these guys, or these guys right here. And so alkanes are always substances that contain carbon and hydrogen and maybe oxygen. If they've got oxygen in them, they're going to have an OH, what's called functional group, and this makes them be an alcohol. Otherwise, if they're just C's and H's, they're always going to fit the formula C to the X, H to the 2X plus 2, and that's the format used to get the correct number of carbons and hydrogens together. Carbons will always be set up to have 4 bonds or 4 hydrogens attached to it, and it will use these prefixes right here, these organic prefixes that give you the number of carbons that are in there. So, for example, write the formula of pentane. So you look on here for pent. Pent is 5, so it'd be C5, and then H would be 2 times 5 plus 2 more H12. Or if it was C2H6, you'd recognize that it's only carbons and hydrogens. You'd look on here, find the prefix F, and then you'd put the ending ane on the end, so it would be called ethane. There are at least 4 of those on the test, so make sure to know them. Are there any other questions from distant learners or face-to-face people? One more distant learner question said acids. I can do that. I've got 1 minute left that I'll do some acid things. Acid, remember, you wrote a whole chart about them. You have to look to see if they're binary, or to see if they contain a polyatomic ion, and then you name them differently based on that. For this case one right here, HCl only has 2 kinds of elements in it, so it's binary. So it starts with the prefix hydro and ends with the suffix ic and always has the word acid at the end of it. So this would be called hydrochloric acid. This one right here has a polyatomic ion in it, so you name it based on the name of its polyatomic ion. If its polyatomic ion ended in 8, then you change the acid naming to ic. And so this one, since it's got nitrate in it, would be called nitric acid. All right, that's what we've got time for today in the WebEx. There are a couple of WebEx people that say they want to stay on and take our polyatomic ion quiz with us. Otherwise, everybody face-to-face here needs to take the polyatomic ion quiz now. So people that are face-to-face with me, will you please clear their desks? And if you are a distant learner person that's here to take the polyatomic ion quiz, I need to see you. So I'm going to unshare the screen right now. No, I can keep sharing the screen. I will need to share the screen. I just need to see you. So if you are a distant learning person and you're going to take the polyatomic ion quiz, I need to see your learning area from your video point of view, please. Everybody else, blank piece of paper, please. Put your periodic table away, books and notes away, everything gone. Test day tomorrow. Let's ace it. First, let's ace a polyatomic ion quiz. I apologize, you don't need your own sheet of paper. I was wrong. I have a handout for you. Old-fashioned handout quiz. You can recycle that paper. Those back. Get them all right. You have 6 minutes to get them all right. Great, neat, super large, super organized. Distance learner people, are there any of you here that are here to take the quiz?